Welcome to the Masters of Creativity session number 8. I'm Jeremy. I know many of you. If you're new here, we are pleased to have you. Welcome to the D.School's effort to showcase and shine a spotlight on amazing practitioners of design, amazing embodiments of creative practice that span the arts and span entrepreneurship and invention and artistry. We're excited to showcase the amazing Randy Hetrick today. Randy is a former Navy SEAL, a founder and CEO of TRX, and 5, Randy, or 6 other startup ventures as well. How many?
Well, it depends on how you count them. I had a couple in the Navy that were maybe the coolest ones of all, but yeah, at least 3 or 4.
That's top secret, right? We can't actually, we can't know about those. It's on a need-to-know basis.
I'd have to cut your head off and put it in a safe, Jeremy, if I shared with you. So.
It would that'd be an ugly way to start, I think. As always, if you want to download the slides ahead of time, or at any point, you're welcome to do so. There's the bit.ly Stanford MOC 8. Jao can drop a link in the chat as well, so you've got it. And then if you want to join the ongoing conversation among the community of practice, we've rallied around these concepts of creative mastery and applying these tools in our lives. We invite you to whip out your smartphone. You can scan this QR code. It will drop you into a WhatsApp group. We have been known to blow up WhatsApp, meaning you might get 100 messages in the next day. Don't hate it, but instead engage. And if you're not able to join now because WhatsApp says there's too many joining at once, as it's happened before, we will throw this up at the end of the session as well in case you're not able to get in. Lastly, you can stay engaged with all of our content at the website we've created, mastersofcreativity.stanford.edu, where we've got an archive of past sessions, as well as signups for future sessions. We've got sessions right now slated through next March, and we are excited to continue on this journey together. But that being said, I'm going to hand the floor over to Randy Hetrick, who's going to showcase some of his amazing entrepreneurial journey, and specifically how he thinks about defining creativity and creative practice in his life, not only where he's been, but where he's going. Please join me with some fireworks applause in welcoming Randy Hetrick to the stage. Fireworks applause.
Thank you. Well, Jeremy used the word amazing in conjunction with me at least 5 times too many, but we'll see what we can do here. I'm super excited to get to be with you cats today because you're my favorite kind of people, right? Creators. And that means folks who really love creativity and innovation so much with this group that you're even willing to tune into this talk during work hours on your employer's dime. Now, that is true dedication, and I thank you for it. So I'm going to talk about a half hour, and then I hope we'll be able to open this up to questions, comments, or general heckling. And you may be wondering why do you call this the creative climb? I'm so glad you asked. The title reflects the simple reality that creating cool new things is an endless process of ideation, invention, reinvention, over and over and over again. With creativity, and the reason why I like this image on this slide, every summit is just a false summit. And if we have any outdoorsmen or alpinists in the group, you guys will understand, right? There are many summits on the way to the mythical summit when you're climbing a hill. And in my humble opinion, the creative process and mindset is like that. It's best when it's inexorable, insatiable. I have something that I've been accused of having akin to creative ADD. But I think that's healthy when you're trying to create cool stuff. And so today we're going to pick off just a couple of the concepts and principles that characterize the topic of creativity and innovation in a context that I think matter to most of us. I really only plan to focus on kind of 3 areas of creativity that I know something about: product innovation, process innovation, and business model innovation. And I'm going to try to keep this to about 25, 30 minutes. So let's get going. So here's what we're going to do. First, we'll attempt briefly to define what creativity is. Then we'll hash out a few principles that in my experience are key to getting it right. Those are the do's, or to getting it wrong, which are the don'ts. And I'll share a couple of examples of each that I've experienced at TRX. And, I'll also share then a couple of the new business model innovations in my companies that will hopefully motivate you and spark a little inspiration inside each of you to get out there and create some cool new stuff of your own. Because I think it takes motivation, inspiration, and a ton of perspiration to create, to innovate, and to change the game for the better. And Lord knows we can all use some of that these days in the land of COVID. So I hope that agenda works for you. If not, feel free to pop in your ear pods and tune in to Gary V's podcast instead. Okay, so first, a quick bit of context. Now, some here in our little hooky from work party may be familiar with TRX, which is a company that I started after I finished my career in the Navy. But very few here today, except maybe the one or two who suffered with me as my classmates in the GSB class of '03, would know anything about the desperate little startup story that came along before there was a TRX brand like we have today. So I'm going to give you a super quick windshield tour of where this pretty little startup came from that I hope may resonate with a few of you creators, and this will set the context for the rest of the day. So let's see if I can pack a couple decades of entrepreneurial history, bootstrap history, into a couple of minutes. So as you may have heard, the idea for what would become the brand called TRX all started here with this guy. Training these guys on this contraption. And for this mission. And then he went here to learn how to do this. Not very well, I might add. So he could open this extravagant joint and hang out a shiny new shingle, fill it up with this stuff, and hire this scrappy pack of dogs to help sell it. And together, they began to build a company, and they outgrew their kennel. So they moved here. And that merry little band of brothers and sisters continued to grow and to fight and to win. We moved our desks upstairs and we built a lab downstairs where the best practices of what would become TRX Training's products and services could be tested and developed, tested, and refined, really. We also planted the seeds for what would become the finest master trainer cadre in the global fitness industry. More than 300 of them around the globe. And over the past decade and a half, call it, over 350,000 training pros have graduated from the TRX qualification courses they teach worldwide. Now, along the way, we also attracted a herd of the world's greatest athletes who make TRX gear and our programs a daily part of their world-class routines. And in part because of them, we get a metric ton of this, which made us a heap of new friends, nearly 1 million on Facebook alone, and some 2 million fans across our combined social channels. And those friends, well, it turns out, they sell stuff, or they buy stuff rather, and they sell stuff. And so, along the way, the best part of it all for me is that while we were stuck in that wild ride of growth, we also earned multi-time placements on the fastest growing and best places to work list, which means we did at least a few things right. So today, we work with all the best fitness brands in the world. We also have partnered with many of the world's greatest consumer brands. And we continue to serve our military and our allies around the world. And that gives you sort of a quick and dirty on the last couple of decades of my life, which now brings me back to the subject for today, which is creativity. Now, I'm sure you can imagine how intimidating it might be to be asked by Jeremy to participate in an episode of the Masters of Creativity at the Stanford Design School. No. So I thought that I would start by trying to clear a fairly low hurdle and perhaps offer just a simple definition of what creativity is. Now, if we were all together in a GSB classroom at the business school right now, I'd torture you each with cold calls and ask you to provide the answer. And then, like all the profs, I just stare at you with a blank look on my face and let you twist in the wind a bit, just for fun. But since we're here virtually together, and I can't really torment you, at least not sufficiently, I'll just deliver the punchline. And that's this. Who the hell really knows what creativity is? I certainly wouldn't be so bold as to attempt to generalize an answer for all the other creative people in the world, because there really is no universal definition. And in fact, the meaning of creativity is elusive by very definition. I mean, just look at a few of these creative cats, right? Everything from Van Gogh, Jobs, Winfrey, the Stones, Mark Twain, Johnny Ive, Lady Gaga. Hey, is she on a TRX? You know about that. That bald guy at the bottom that we all know a little bit about. Elon Musk, Steph Curry. Hey, turns out he's on TRX too. What a coincidence. But, indeed, creativity means something different to every truly creative person. Every one of these people is in a different field, doing something different that's creative. And that's what makes it all so brilliant. Creativity is a chameleon. So the best hope that I have here is to tell you what, in my experience as an innovator of products, of models, and of processes, seems to kind of fit the bill as a definition. So here's my humble stab at it. The relentless instinct to produce uniqueness and to express one's best ideas, whether through beauty, provocation, cleverness, utility, or inspiration. And or to innovate upon something that already exists in the world and improve upon it in every way imaginable. Now, you may be wondering why the add-on? Well, here's why. Because people make a lot out of things that are all new and that get created from scratch. But one can also unlock a lot of progress and value by improving upon the creations that came before us. What matters to true creators, in my humble opinion, is the intent. Never to copy, always to improve and expand upon the state of the art. So here's my 2 cents worth of jackass opinion on some basic do's and don'ts in the area of creative product innovation. I sort of learned these from the School of Hard Knocks, the Navy SEAL teams, Stanford Business School, and then the last almost 20 years now, as a bootstrap entrepreneur. Now, I do, full disclosure, I do want to be clear. I'm not a graphic designer, so I apologize in advance for the lack of elegance on some of my slides. My creative right-hand man and lifelong buddy, Don Defer, with whom I partner on most of my creative inspirations, he will be horrified when he sees these slides, so I apologize. Okay, moving into the rules of thumb on the do's side, and it's a busy slide, I understand, but we're all busy people. And it's definitely not an exhaustive list. So anybody who's sitting out there ready to pounce on me, just relax. This is a very short list of what, in my experience, are the most commonly overlooked principles that when you do them right, deliver great results, and when you do them wrong or don't do them at all, they have a way of biting both myself and others on the backside. just when we least expected it. So I want to walk through these for a minute, just give a little bit of color. The first in the do category is this, just like it says, solve a real problem, right? And the reason that that matters is because when you solve a real problem, the market pulls you into itself. So it becomes a propulsion engine for your idea, process, concept when you solve a real problem. Okay, do seek domain experts with whom to ideate and validate your concept. There's a lot of smart people out there and you need them. Okay, do broadly socialize your concept across your organization to achieve buy-in. Now, why does this matter? Now, if there's pure creatives out there in the audience, maybe you haven't experienced this yet, but I can tell you as a business creative that I've seen a lot of great ideas for products and processes sort of run onto the rocks because they weren't properly socialized across the organization to achieve buy-in across all the functions. And all you got to do is fail to achieve the buy-in of your sales organization or your marketing organization, and you will very quickly find out that the best idea is going to crater. Do ensure that your idea is fundamentally, not just marginally, better than those out there already with the incumbents. Why? Because innovations, to be successful, need to be fundamentally different and better. The world is a very loud, noisy, busy, cluttered place. And so if what you do in your creative effort is just a little different or a little better than the incumbents, it's likely going to fail, or it's going to be painful to try to get it to succeed. Make it fundamentally better, not marginally better. Okay, do prototype your product, process, model extensively and keep driving for better. Do test that final concept in the marketplace with uninformed customers. We all have a tendency to get those around us to pre-wire them, and then guess what? They tell us how much they like our thing. Well, before you attempt to take that product to market widely and to achieve what you will be encouraged by folks in your organization oftentimes to get to scale efficiencies as quickly as possible, you got to test. You got to test and test, because I have done it both ways. I have attempted to do initial buys to achieve the efficient pricing minimum order quantity, and I've come to regret it horrifically when there ended up being, as there surely will in your products or processes as well, some initial hiccups. So start small. Don't worry about some of the additional inefficient costs initially, and test, test, test. And then lastly on this list, though certainly not last in priority, is today you have to build intellectual property protection into your designs. The online universe, which is different than when I started TRX back in 2004, today the online universe is absolutely plagued by what I will kindly refer to as fast followers, accurately referred to as knockoff scum, whose whole reason for being is to copy and market the innovations of others. And they can get to market so fast that you won't have a chance to establish yourself as the innovator and the market leader if you don't have some intellectual properties that you can use on the big platforms like Amazon to help protect your innovation. So all very important stuff. And now we move on to some of the don'ts. Let's see here. So these don'ts, right? If you don't adhere to them, you will face plant. And so I want to walk through these as well. First of all, and this is one probably that I see more commonly out there than almost anything else with new innovators, is it's the opposite of the first do, which remember was solve a real problem. There are awful lot of concepts out there that become the quintessential solution that is desperately in search of a problem. Reason this is a problem all on its own is because you don't solve a problem that's broadly perceived, which means you're going to have to push your product into the market. you're going to have to push the process on people because you're not solving a real problem. And if you do that, you're going to be a bit like Sisyphus, right? You're going to be rolling your rock uphill potentially forever. And any time that you stop pushing, guess what happens? It rolls back down to the beginning. Second, don't create an undifferentiated product or service because someone in your organization is telling you we really need something in this category. Now, this is something that for those of us who work for organizations will run into often from your sales organization, your marketing organization. You know, just because you need something in a category is not a good reason to do it. So resist that effort to create something that's undifferentiated and just copy somebody else. Because again, cluttered world, when you do that, you're going to have a hard time selling it. You're going to end up potentially with something that is worse than useless. Okay, number 3, don't go it alone. There are many smart people in the world, and I suspect within your organizations. Bring some of that perspective and experience into your creative silo, and don't spring things on people at the last minute because you may not get the answer or the approbation that you sought. Okay, similar, do not discard early expressions of incredulity or perplexity among your test subjects. I must admit, have been guilty of this a time or two. They just don't get it. You know, I'll show them, they'll figure it out. Well, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't get it because there's not enough there to get, or because you didn't explain it well, or you're not describing or supporting the product well. So do the opposite. Early on, you get expressions of doubt or confusion, hug them, bring them close to you, figure out how to earn understanding and support through better clarity of communication, more customer support, or potentially a redesign. Okay, don't ever rush your prototype to market in order to hit an arbitrary deadline that, I will tell you, they masquerade as critical milestones. They're in the plan. By God, you got to hit them. That is not what's critical. What is critical is not to face plant upon launch. Now, what's that look like? Well, that looks like launching a product that you find out as soon as it starts to have more than a dozen testers has issues. And then you're looking at a recall. And that, my friends, is a horrific experience that I've only been through one time in my 20 years, and it was enough to convince me never to do it again. That constitutes a face plant, or you roll out a process, a creative process within your organization that gets rejected. Well, now all you've got are a bunch of people that are confused and think that you don't know what the hell's going on because you obviously didn't vet this and test it in advance. And it's a whole hairball that you don't need. And last but not least, don't, never, triple negative, I realize, ever become that tool who copies other people's stuff because you're better. All right, moving on. Let's tell a couple of stories about some real world examples that I've lived. I wish we had more time because I could talk about product development war stories all day long, but sadly we don't. So I'm just going to share a few, including my oldest, my first product, and my newest, the one that just got released a couple of months ago, and then one in between that will illustrate some of the don'ts. All right, so here it is. For those of you who have suffered on the TRX, here is the strap that started it all. I will very quickly tell the story of the suspension trainer. Hop back for a second, Jeremy, because I want to let him look at this for just a second. So, you know, back in the 90s, SEALs were deploying around the world a lot. And while we needed to basically perform as professional athletes in uniform, we never had any gear to train with when we deployed. And so I came up on an operation. It's actually a counter-piracy operation. And this is the first one, a jiu-jitsu belt that I had accidentally deployed with, and then some about 6 feet of nylon webbing from our extra gearbox. And that was me back in the day when I got back from that operation. And I figured out a system to solve this huge problem that we had whenever we deployed, using your body weight as resistance and this simple strap And so while initially it wasn't the most intuitive product, it solved a big problem. We keep beating on that drum because it matters so much. And it also solved a whole bunch of little ones. Now let's advance. Okay, so here it was. Initially called it the Travel X, the complete portable exerciser, around 2004. And those who were in my class at Stanford Business School at 2003 will remember this was the first version of it, the strap that started it all. And, we were pretty darn innovative with this. We'd innovated and created on modality, the design work, the branding work, the method, which didn't exist before, the idea of supporting that product very well with end user content. And this takes you back, because you can even see in that awesome package that we innovated on that showed clear walls so you could see what was inside this and what was different. You can see a VHS in there, which probably some people on the call can't remember what that is. And heck, right after we launched, the DVD came along. And so you see down there on the left, my back, that tells you how desperate we were. I was even the model on our DVD, but we did a great job, I think, with this product of innovating and creating on every front, from the accessories to, the content to the branding. And that's what was needed to launch a fundamentally new concept. And the best of all, it gave trainers a magic wand of creativity and innovation to use with their clients, which ultimately, as you see in this slide, led us to really broad adoption. And perhaps it's a little wonder that it succeeded despite having no marketing budget really ever. Today, the suspension trainer lives in about 50,000 gyms around the world, even like this one in Russia, in a gymnasium, as they call it. And the big lesson from this product is when you solve a real problem, the market creates your momentum. All right, so now we're going to move on to another product, my most recent product, in fact. And this one is called the TRX Bandit. Now, I really love this one because, I want to tell the quick story of this. We sold those strength bands for a long time at TRX, the ones on the picture on the left side. But everybody that I went to, even the most experienced coaches, guys like Todd Durkin, Gunnar Peterson, Harley Pasternak, they all use the bands for one or two things and never figure out why they bought them, right? And when I asked them why, I said, the reason why I use them for more is it's not a great experience on our clients' hands. I don't really know how to use them all that well. I haven't taken the time to figure it out. So we set out to fix that. And if you look to the picture on the right side, you'll see all the prototypes. The lesson from this one is prototype, prototype, prototype. And you'll see I came back from a trip where I had taken these things on the road with me, and I was adamant that I was going to learn everything I needed to teach myself about these bands. And the biggest thing was, it kind of sucks on your hands. And if you have, big meat hooks like mine, it's maybe not quite as bad. If you have dainty hands like a lot of women have, it's really pretty unpleasant. So I started with a piece of PVC and a router, and those are all of we may have even skipped a couple. But when I talk about prototyping and testing, we prototyped and tested and prototyped and tested. And this one we really got all right. We took all the lessons, did great content to support our users. We did a nice job with design. We solved a very real problem. And then we tested it extensively with industry experts. I got full buy-in from my team, and we launched a really great product with an extensive content delivery system and support for the customers. As a result, guys, we've sold through every inventory load that we have immediately upon arrival. And, this is basically the equivalent of an entire rack of dumbbells in less than 2 pounds a year. So it's pretty cool. But it was a massively successful product introduction. Got enormous response from the media because, and my favorite quote was, "A simple, brilliantly elegant solution." Man, if I could only do that more often. And, at the end of the day, why is it successful? We solved a real problem that people didn't even realize fully that they had. We got all the rest right too. Okay, now, I always like to share some of my stumbles and bumbles. So then along came the rocker. Actually, this came before the Bandit. And this is a really cool product, but, less than stellar process. And one that has yielded, despite being a great product, kind of disappointing results. We tried to create a roller, and this is where, when you think back to that, don't create something because we got to be in that category. We got some, internal pressure to create something in the myofascial roller space because we didn't have anything there. And we decided we would innovate because we don't copy. And so we created this very oddly shaped geometrically shaped features that had density zones, and by all of our estimation should have worked. But here's the problem. It just wasn't fundamentally different enough. And in addition to that, it turned out that it was actually a little confusing because you rock it, you don't roll it like people have gotten used to. It's very intense, works amazingly. So for those of you who like myofascial, self-myofascial treatment, it's a great tool. Unfortunately, we didn't get full buy-in internally because some of our training and marketing group didn't understand why we weren't just doing a roller. We rushed it to market because we were trying to hit an arbitrary deadline, which was holiday of that year. And, as a result, it just didn't work out the way that we wish. And so it will go down as a good example of, some don'ts that hopefully you guys will remember. All right, next slide. So shifting for a minute over to process. Okay, I'm only going to give one example of process innovation, but the reason that I want to do process and business model is because I think it's easy to forget in a design school where you're looking at product design that you can be creative and innovative in every direction. So that was my reminder to talk faster. All right, so let's go to the next slide and take a look at our really first major process innovation at TRX. And this goes back to 2008. We've been selling the suspension trainer for quite a while. And we did some really cool things with this creative process. We decided that instead of other innovations that we could do, and we did some on the product itself, we would innovate around the process of delivering content. So we went, as I mentioned before, not only did we have a DVD that gave a host of great workouts to our customers, but think back to 2008, we launched the idea of living product. Living product, if you see that token card down there, that was the beginning of the digital content transformation. And what it did was it allowed people to not only use the DVD when they first unboxed the product and got going, but then they could open up, they could register with us, which got us their information, even if they came from a retail environment, and they could create an ongoing access to a content stream that would keep this product alive, hence the name Living Product. While it sounds simple and almost quaint today, it was revolutionary back then. We also included that little hidden Easter egg, which was something that we've done since by embedding a surprise inside the product that's not even marketed on the outside, so that when your customer opens it, they're delighted. And all that innovation and the digital content won us the Best New Gear of 2008 award with Men's Health Magazine, which I can tell you helped a lot. All right, so now we'll shift over to model. All right, business model. Well, what do I mean when I talk about, creativity in the form of business model innovation? I'm going to give you a couple examples that my teams and I are working furiously on today we've already launched now to perfect, each of which holds a promise to fundamentally transform the businesses. Okay, the first one is this, TRX Training Club. It's kind of our version of a Peloton-like service, but we believe it is fundamentally, not marginally, different. And it's quintessentially TRX. It contains not only virtual live group classes and video on demand group classes like Peloton and others, But in addition, it contains a whole bunch of cool functionality for virtual personal training, for the delivery of professional education courses and seminars. All of our courses are now moved into the digital realm through this platform. And maybe best of all, we can rent that virtual personal training capability out to trainers all around the world, and that becomes a new revenue stream all its own. So huge initiative with big ramifications. And now the second of my business model, my creative business model innovations, my new baby. Hopefully some of you who follow me have seen this, Outfit Training. This is an outdoor mobile fitness franchise network. And really, it is the ultimate blend of an incredible professionally coached fitness experience, a ton of innovation around the vehicles, and convenience. Come to a park near you or even your driveway, all meets cutting edge technology like Uber. Think sort of the Uber of fitness. And it's all wrapped up in a subscription model that solves a host of long-standing, commonly perceived problems for the customer, for our franchise partners, for their trainers, and for Outfit HQ. Next slide. Here's what it looks like out in nature. And really, I honestly believe that this business model innovation is the culmination of all my years in fitness, my cumulative creative practices, and all my stumbles, bumbles, and hard lessons learned. And you know, this is a innovative new take on an age-old industry, training outdoors, that I believe has the potential to become the largest and most profitable fitness business in history. But only time and a ton of sweat will tell you whether or not I'm right. Okay, so if you remember nothing else, if you're one of the folks that has, put your ear pods in and been listening to Gary Vee's podcast, remember these 4 pearls of wisdom. First, be relentlessly curious if you want to be a creator, because creativity really is everywhere. You just have to know where to look. Now, solve a real problem. And I've already told you why that matters. Don't be the solution in search of a problem. Okay, number 3, you heard me say it a couple of times. Be fundamentally, not marginally better than the status quo. And that's a lesson I did not adhere to with the rocker. And, we paid a little price. And last but not least, ideate, invent, and iterate, and then rinse and repeat, because this creativity practice happens forever. All right, so a couple of parting thoughts. The first one is this. This creativity stuff ain't easy, but it can be really fun. And though I am nowhere near the top of that creativity mountain, I do know this to be true. It takes courage, relentless curiosity, and a ton of sweat to regard oneself as a creator. But that relentless heavy lifting is so worth the effort. In exchange for, all the blood, sweat, and tears that I put into it, I got to go from here, there I am, to here. To here, yes, I really was a Navy SEAL. And to here, there's me holding the bones. Then to here, and into here, onward to here, and finally on through here, a little reward. And I got to experience a whole lot of awesomeness along the way. And best of all, gang, at 56 years young, as of last week, my real creativity is only just getting started. And I hope yours is too. So thank you very much. And I'm happy to take some questions now if we have some time for it. And I would be grateful if you guys are interested enough to keep up with me on Instagram at the handles here on the screen. And with that, Jeremy, I'll throw it back over to you if we've got any questions that came in on chat or anybody that just generally wants to heckle me.
Yeah, I'm sure that there are some hecklers for sure. Marlon, I thought had a good question just to get things started. How will the outfit fare in the new era of remote work?
Well, thank you, Marlon, for asking that question, because we think it's going to fare really well. And one of the things, if I'd be so bold as to pitch it, is once we get a little more scale, we're hoping that we're going to be able to be a bit of glue for organizations that are remote, that maybe everybody's not flung all over the universe, but maybe you're just working from home and you come in a couple times a week. Great opportunity for us to bring, the gift of fitness and connection community right into your campus. So tell your boss, or if you are the boss, call me.
Someone named H, Randy, asked, how did you discover that there's an opportunity in this oversaturated space? This resistance training is as old as time, H says.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether H is talking about the Bandit with elastic resistance, or the opportunity with outfit. I would answer with the Bandit. I had an opportunity to take a look at something that is kind of as old as time, right? The concept of elastic resistance, and identify what turned out to be a really commonly held problem that, for whatever reason, nobody had innovated on, or certainly not elegantly. And I, back to that point of being relentlessly curious, my dad, I think, probably inspired in me. He was a guy that could fix damn near anything on earth, not always well, but well enough. And kind of gave me a MacGyver-like quality growing up, that just was a curiosity about, hey, why is that way? Can I fix that, make it better? And that's what I did with the Bandit. So I'll stop there. I think that's the question.
I love it. Carrie Lee asks, how do you deal with naysayers who are nothing but negative during your creative process?
That is a great question, Carrie Lee. And, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people in the world that, that just like to gripe and like to sort of shoot darts at people. I don't know why that is. I always try to view them as, maybe there's something in their own lives that are frustrating and they want to act out. But, I kind of look at it and go, hey, if somebody is naysaying, I try to own it and assume that I haven't done a great job at communicating my concept. And I just put my nose at the grindstone and work harder on the communication, because anything that is a really creative solution to a problem has merit. And making others understand that merit is the job of the creator. So that's how I would think about it. I wouldn't let it bother you. I just drive on.
Hey, Randy, Roy's got a great question here about your perspectives on the rampant copying that's core to Silicon Valley. He mentions Google's not the first search engine. Facebook didn't invent social media. The recipe seems to be about out-executing, out-inventing, not worrying about whether you're copying. How do you, and even you mentioned, building upon what's come before. So how do you think about that, the nuances there?
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, who asked the question, Jeremy?
Roy.
All right, Roy. That's a good question. And it's the reason why I added the second clause in my humble definition of creativity, right? Because I don't think that everything has to start from scratch. And indeed, most of progress, most of human evolution, it's the old saying, we stand on the shoulders of giants who came before us, right? I think if you want to be a creator, and there are a lot of people who've been successful in business who are not. We're here to talk about, mastering creativity. So, can you succeed by knocking other people off? Yeah. Is it noble? No. And so what I would say is that if you want to succeed by building on the creativity and innovations of somebody else, then do so by improving it. And I suppose better execution could be part of that fundamental betterment. I think that looking for problems in existing technologies that you think you have an elegant solution for, potentially doing a much better job with customer communications and marketing and explaining, if you can help grow the pie by bringing something forward that is unique in your own way, but may not be fundamentally new. I think that that's, an honorable way to approach innovation and creativity. The ones that I really have no time for there's a whole cottage industry, and much of it is over in, in the developing world, especially Southern China, where when you talk about products, their roadmap is to go on and find products that are doing well on Amazon and then copy them to the stitch or to the weld, and disregarding patents, trademarks, and I think that doesn't help the state of the art. It actually drags down innovators and causes a lot of innovators to fail.
Yeah, I just by way of example, Randy, we've got an entrepreneur in our network who attends our office hours at a class called Launchpad that Perry and I teach, and she's got an innovative product. It's a heatless hair curler, and it took off. She was blown away by the early success, and then immediately there's 50 products, all of which are copycats coming out of other countries that are really poor quality, that are damaging her brand. And there's outspending her in marketing. It's challenging. Roy, the other thing I was thinking about is Google's a good example. There's a great book Stephen Levy wrote called In the Plex, which you could just read the first 100 pages, but you get the sense. I really like the word Randy used about the honorableness of improvement. And search is a great example of a nut that fundamentally had not been cracked. Even VCs, if you go through those first 100 pages of Levy's book, it's fascinating. Nobody thought search was a scientific problem. They thought, or that was, to say it differently, they didn't think it was a solvable problem. And Larry and Sergey came around and said, actually it is. And PageRank was, and Backrub, which was how they started thinking about it with backlinks, because they had spent so much time in the library and understood the reference system. They fundamentally had a different way of assigning value and ranking to the internet that no one had understood. Which is to say, I love that word improvement. And if you can find something to improve, by all means, do it. I want to mention there's a question here, Randy, from Life is Beautiful 12. When you hire people, how can you tell whether someone is creative?
Well, first of all, I love your creative handle. Life is Beautiful 12. Man, that just makes me feel good about answering the question. Well, I think it's a tough screen, right? Because not everybody is creative. A lot of people are much more, say, process-based or execution-based, and almost view creativity as frivolous. I would always look. First of all, I would never just hire somebody based on a resume, but I would look into their resume. When you're calling and checking a reference, ask people. It's funny when you ask an open-ended question like, "Hey, how would you rate Randy's creativity on a level of 1 to 10?" And then let them talk, right? Can you give me an example of something creative they did or innovative? Is this person a pure executor, or is this person a good white space thinker? You'll get really great answers. And a lot of time, just by talking, when you interview the candidate and you ask them, "Hey, tell me about some problems that you've taken on in your past, and how'd you think about them? How'd you approach them? Have you ever invented anything?" Let people talk, because most everybody views themselves as creative in some way, and then it'll be up to you, Life is Beautiful 12, to make the determination of whether they're creative enough to join your flock.
I thought Zhao asked an excellent question, Randy. He said, from Aksu, do you have any strategies to motivate the people you work with to be more creative? Or maybe to say it differently, how do you unleash the creativity of others?
Yeah, I do have a couple strategies. Fortunately for me, by virtue of the fact that I've spent my whole civilian career, well, really my whole career, SEALs are incredibly resourceful, creative cats. Literally that is part of the screening process, because, we have a mission that you will not fail. And sometimes it takes some insane creativity, as we've all seen from the ops that have happened over the last 20 years, to make that happen. But then as I moved into the private sector, I'm a bootstrap entrepreneur, and inherently creative people like to join early stage ventures. That's one thing I've found. As to a couple of tactics, the biggest one by far that I use a lot is to say to my teammates, hey, what do you think? How would you approach this? And engage them in the creative process. Hey, I'd go to our accountant and say, hey, would you do me the favor of taking these prototypes? Now, please do not lose them. There's one set of them. Well, what do you think how do you think that accountant feels when you go to that person and who doesn't view him or herself as a fitness expert and you want their opinion, right? Well, why do I want it? Not only to make them feel good, I want it because that is the uninformed bear, right? That I need to give me feedback, which may well be negative, that I have to absorb and then go, all right, damn it, I got to do a better job. So, let people, ask them to join you, ask them for their opinions, and you'll be amazed at some of the creative solutions you find from non-creatives.
That's beautiful. I love that. Lisa asked a great question. What are your sources of information or maybe inspiration? I think Lisa's probably asking, in terms of media, books, authors, et cetera, that you find yourself being inspired by and shape your thinking.
Well, I'm a pretty, I hate to use the term voracious reader because I'm not really voracious. I read each morning, right? That's my meditation, because I just haven't learned to meditate yet. I need to, but I haven't. I wake up and the first thing I do is I read for about 30, 40 minutes, and I have just a stack of books. I've read most of the ones that have become popular out there, the Start With Whys and, the popular unleashing idea viruses and all of that stuff, because I think there's usually a kernel of inspiration in each one of them. But I'll tell you, the other thing that I do is I read a lot of autobiographies and authorized biographies. I do it for two reasons. One, when I'm reading them, right now I'm reading, a quasi-authorized biography of Nike called Just Do It. But I started with Swoosh, which was or Shoe Dog rather, which was Phil Knight's.
One of my favorites of all time, by the way.
Yeah, just great, right? Or Jobs. You read those, and to me, those people are gods of creativity. They forged amazing new paths. And what you find out, this is the other reason I read them, is they were all screwed up too, right? They did all the same stupid crap that everybody else does. They stumbled, they face planted, they came near death over and over and over again as an organization. And yet, right, they stuck with it. They ground it out. They weren't always nice guys. They didn't always treat people like they should have. They didn't always do the best practices that we all know when we're thinking we should do, but somehow we fail in the doing. And I find that comforting because it makes me feel better about myself, and I get some great ideas along the way. So I get a lot of creativity, the long answer to a short question, out of reading biographies and autobiographies of other great creators.
Beautiful. I wouldn't want the session to end without you answering this question. I think you'd be disappointed if you didn't. Simply, Raluca mentions, could you describe the initial problem you felt when you first designed the strap? She wasn't totally clear on the problem you were trying to solve.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I was concerned about timing in the middle of the talk, so I was probably skipped over that. Well, the big problem was we deployed all the time, and SEALs and other special ops cats basically are professional athletes in uniform, right? But professional athletes train for 3 to 6 hours a day in world-class facilities. When we're home, we had that, right? But when we would deploy abroad, we had nothing. And I was trying to solve a very particular problem on that particular operation, which was how to get up the side of a freighter with 80 or 90 pounds of gear on your back on a wire ladder, by jumping off the top of a rising and falling, high-speed assault craft and climbing. Well, I came up with this idea of, today we call this functional training. How do you train that motion, right? When you got no gear? And I just came up with this idea to take my jujitsu belt and tie a knot in it, throw it over a door, lean back, and let gravity provide the resistance. And then it turned out that, you know, there were all these other exercises you could do, which addressed a broader problem that everybody who deployed away from their gym had, which is, hey, how do I do a workout in my hotel room? You know, if I could just go outdoors and do something at home, because I don't have a home gym, right? And I don't want to spend, you know, $3,000-$4,000 to build one. Like, that turned out to be a problem that had a lot longer legs than I ever realized.
You know, Randy, at the D.school, we talk a lot about the value of extreme users in driving fresh thinking for designers. And it strikes me that the Navy's and extreme users, if you think about them on the bell curve, they're extreme, meaning they're a very small percentage of the population, but their needs are more acutely felt. Oftentimes it's actually a latent need across the population, but it's only expressed in this extreme situation. And I feel like the Navy SEALs and their extreme requirements for training and their lack of facility despite their need is a great example. I never thought about it like that until right now, but it's a great example of designing for an extreme use case. And then you realize, oh, the person, like, I pack my TRX in my carry-on when I go to a hotel, right? I mean, I do that, right? But if you had started with, what is somebody staying in a hotel need? Because there's a lot of those people, you'd never design something as beautiful and elegant and simple as the TRX band. So it's a great example.
You know, I should take more of your classes, Jeremy, because I could have used that as a deliberate intent. What we ended up doing was we created a slogan at TRX that everything we do comes from the pros to the Joes. And it was that intuition, not formal education, that basically informed it. And it was, look, if we can clear the hurdle and meet the needs of the greatest athletes on earth, then, well, by goodness, we ought to be able to migrate those innovations and that knowledge and content and education downstream to the Joes and Joannes of the world who just want to stay fit, you know. And SEALs, by the way, are not only extreme users, they are also extreme skeptics. And so I knew that I was onto something when I had them starting to pay my buddy, the rigger out in the parachute loft, a case of beer to make one of my gizmos. And so yeah, there's a real world example of your concept of extreme.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Hey, Randy, last thing, just for promotional opportunity, where can folks buy TRX bands and products? Where can they find them?
Well, trxtraining.com is the best place. You can also find them at Dick's Sporting Goods, on Amazon, but we do a lot of things on website at trxtraining.com with content, you know, special opportunities, promotions, pricing, etc. So that's where I'd send you.
Last thing I want to ask you to do, folks, if you wouldn't mind, turn on your videos. And Randy, if you put your screen in gallery view, it will allow you to see, at least on most computers, up to 50 people at once. But folks, turn on your videos and let's give Randy our standard fireworks applause. Fireworks applause. Thank you so much for joining us. It's an incredible privilege and opportunity to get to learn from you and the amazing work you've done at TRX. We are excited to see what happens with Outfit and what happens with future innovations I know you've got in the pipeline. It's an amazing thing just to get to behold from afar. And we really appreciate you making the time to be with us today, Randy. Thanks again.
I'm so grateful for having the opportunity, Jeremy, and thank you to all you guys and gals who joined. Follow Outfit Training, because we're going to be rolling to a neighborhood near you soon, and there is, I believe, a lot of innovation there. But I'm really grateful for your attention, and would love to support any of your ventures as you get rolling. So best of luck.